Hello everyone, my name is aneuo. Today we'll be going over the boss Selector and basically who you should choose. And I'll just go over quickly over each unit. I'll actually just go from bottom to top because the higher we get to the top, the more extracted it is, which makes it a bit harder to select it. And if you have like duplicates or so, maybe I can probably add it. I'll add a separate list really quickly. Okay, I quickly made a duplicate list, so there's like 3 lists there. So this is like if you're a first time, right? So let's go from bottom to top. ADS is slightly weak right now due to mini sets, as well as characters like Aram being present in the game that can first turn a mini. And also Boss Arunka being a unit, meaning you're only allowed to target her. It makes it harder for ADS to do her job. If you're on a counter set ADS, it makes it harder for her to do her job. That is pretty much it. Otherwise, if we were to remove those units from the game, she'd be good, but just be a mini sets, just make her weak, and that's practically it. And since the mini set is so prevalent, it makes it much harder for ADS to do her job. The time that ADS got buffed, she was super strong because not a lot of people were on a mini sets, and especially with Payrip being out of, in the meta, a lot of people started swapping over to mini sets, what made this unit slightly weaker. Belian is a very strong unit. The only issue is that if we come over to, if you were to select Belian, how would you use her? Well, first you need to own the 3F. And if you don't own Belian, then she feels like a C tier unit. And although her passive is very strong, the thing is that you're really only selecting Belian in specific situations where you're trying to cancel out your opponent's book, or you're playing her to counter units like Spirit Isolene. And if you don't have 3F, well, then you can't really pick her as a Spirit Isolene counter, right? And that means you're going to build her in her generic way, which is crit, which means she's not good into Spirit Isolate. So that means she's only good into generic cleaves, but the issue with that is the cleaves have like a new form. They're not the same as before, and playing the old crit build on Belian means you're sacrificing bulk, which really sucks into like the new form of cleave. You're just not going to survive. So it makes her really weak. The only thing that she has going for her otherwise is that she blocks out book, which is pretty good for ER cheese. So if you are an ER player, this is probably maybe a little bit higher for you because it makes it easier for you to become an ER player. But otherwise, for the more general player base, she feels on the weaker end compared to the other options. Harsetti is an okay option. I'm not a huge fan of Harsetti in my opinion, but I can't really say you're wrong for having a Harsetti on your account. She can be useful to newer players to counter people who are faster than you, but I do think that she's a really easy to counter unit, so I don't know if I would ever put her above these units up here. Maybe she's in the same tier as Straze, but I do really feel that she's pretty easy to counter once you have their counters. I think she just really bullies just newer players who don't have options, and that's practically it. If you're going to fight other people who've been playing slightly longer than you, she's going to be a bit easier to counter, which is the reason why I don't see her as a worth compared to others. But if you don't have her, I think she's probably worth picking up. But like, I don't know, I wouldn't rate her too high. Now here's where like the objectiveness comes. Straze will be a little bit harder to gear for newer players, but he is definitely a pretty decent in PvP right now. The only thing is that for Straze, you're going to need some combo units, and that means you're going to need some pretty strong openers to pair with him unless you have really good speed gear to make him super fast. If you have an Ahmed, then you can make him like 230 speed. If you have like a Conk, you're going to need to make him like 250. But otherwise, if you have those good combo units, Straze is pretty good. And otherwise, you can use him as a farmer in PvE. He is a pretty good PvE farmer as well. So it's not like he's going to be completely out of a job compared to these other units here if you can't use him for PvP yet. Otherwise, as of currently, before Lady of the Scales comes out, he is very strong. When Lady of the Scales comes out, he possibly can drop here because it would be harder to cleave with Lady of the Scales. But I do think he's a very decent option to pick compared to the other ones due to his PvE capabilities. Mind you, once again, if you do want to pick up Straze, having these combo units will make your life a whole lot easier. I should probably do this as well because that's a combo unit as well. Having these options here will make your life a whole lot easier. Okay, lastly is Zio. Zio is a little bit of a oddball. You never see him with a very high win rate, but you see him played fairly a lot because he's just the fastest, technically the fastest unit in the game. You pick him, you're kind of declaring you want to take first turn and counter people who are playing faster than you. It's kind of like the first option we had when Harsetti didn't exist. So, and the only difference with him is that he feels a lot more defined than Harsetti. You take Zeo, if you do land your debuffs on your Zeo, you then get to combo it with all of these units, and as you can see, there is a lot more options for you to play. Right, you can play your Green Euphine, you can play your Jackal's limited, so you probably don't have her. If you play Crit Zeo, you can play Cavill, you Soulworm with Zeo, you bridge up Ludwig, you S1, you bridge this, you S1, you bridge this, S3 debuff, you bridge this, you S3 debuff, pushback, you bridge this. There's just a lot more options, and probably maybe I'm missing some, but like, you just way more options. The only issue with this is a lot of these are limited units or ML5, so it's probably not as accessible as one may think for newer players, but you have a lot more to work with Zeo, and if you don't have any of these combo units, the value of Zeo does go down slightly to about A tier, because having these combo units really makes Zeo shine. For instance, if I had a Teo, I would be playing Zeo a lot more, but because I don't have him, Teo I've been playing too much Uma. Teo being the strongest Zeo bridge, since I don't have him, he feels slightly weaker because that means I'm playing with these other ones with Flannoy's getting taken out pretty early, which makes it pretty hard to play Zeo. But if I had Teo, I'd be playing Zeo a lot more. So if you don't have his bridges, Zeo is realistically around here. I don't think he's all that much better, and you can probably take between whatever ones you like here, but if you do have some of his bridges to use, I think he's probably up here, especially if you have MO Ludwig, because it will make cleaving guild wars a bit more easier. And if you want to get dupes, having a second Zeo for like between effectiveness and DPS is an option. Having Straze between a fast and a slow build is an option. For instance, on your slower build, you can have way more higher damage, and if you're playing units like Homage, realistically you don't need a ton of speed. So having a second Straze is pretty good there, or having like maybe a second Straze for PvE content, that's pretty good as well. Belian is like okay, like if you have no other options or you have like a ton of these units, then sure, you can play like Tank Belian or something. And Harsetti, the only other build is like if you want to swap between injury, effectiveness, and maybe like, I don't know, speed, which is kind of like interesting, I guess. But like, if you need to choose, there's probably these top two first before these bottom two, and if you were to choose between these bottom two, it's probably Harsetti over Belian right now. But if you want to choose Arias Belian, do what you want to do. Anyways, that is pretty much it. I'll catch you guys in the next one.